Today we're going to talk about this 1998 Honda CBR600. Those of you who follow the channel know why it's here. It belongs to a friend of mine. It wasn't running, so I fixed it. Haven't ridden it yet though. We're not going to ride it in this video. We'll do that in part 2. Today I just want to talk about it, give you guys an overview so we can get familiar. This is a 1998 CBR600. It's the third iteration of Honda's CBR600. The first one being introduced in 1987. They called that the Hurricane. Since you guys have seen this motorcycle, I installed the fuel tank, the fairings, and the seat. So it's almost put together again. This is a CBR600 F3 because it's the third version of the CBR600. And Google says that CBR stands for cross beam racer because the engine sits crossways perpendicular to the frame rails. Makes about 100 horsepower, weighs about 450 pounds wet. This one weighs a little bit less because it's missing some of the fairings. Ed has those, but they're broken, so they're not on here. I'm not going to tell you guys about the boilerplate specifics, every little line item, because you can look that up on Wikipedia. I'll just talk about what I think is interesting that I've noticed so far, and pertinent facts. Something I wondered since the first day it came into the shop is what this graphic was on the side. See that black stripes?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if it was a Japanese character because it's a Honda, or maybe just a stylistic graphic, but I figured it out. Do you know what it is?
No, I haven't been looking at it for very long though.
Figured I was safe by asking you. This says F3. Do you see it?
Okay.
F3. Because it's the CBR600 F3. And if we go to the other side, it's the same, just mirrored. F3.
Okay.
I can sleep easy now.
You can.
This motorcycle, I think, is an example of something that's been taken care of with some care. It hasn't been babied, hasn't been neglected. It's just a decent example of a 90s sport bike. It has what I consider typical 90s styling. In the 90s, they went from boxy, 1980s style, to a more swoopy, rounded style. Reminds me a little bit of a Corvette of the same year. Rounded, sleek looking. After this, styles kind of changed into a more angular, sharp look. This has carburetors. CBR600F all the way through CBR600F4 all had carburetors. In 2001, they switched to fuel injection. They called that one the F4i. The I stands for I don't have carburetors. Supposedly this is comfortable compared to other sport bikes. I ride dirt bikes. I've only ridden street bikes a handful of times. Never ridden a CBR600. Compared to a dirt bike, I do feel like I'm leaning forward a lot, but that must be necessary because all sport bikes have this type of riding position, head first, head down. When I go for my ride, I'll see if it becomes obvious that it's a good idea to have this riding position. It's probably for aerodynamics. These have a good reputation. From what I've read, people have high opinions of this machine. They're reliable. This has 34,000 miles, and you and I were opining about whether that was a lot of miles. Remember that video? Many days ago? These can go a lot longer than that. This isn't even half used up as long as it's been maintained correctly. Back here we have the ubiquitous Honda turn signals of the ages. I think they used those for about 30 years. Pretty much the same thing as what's on my XL500 from 1982. And they continued using that same turn signal into the 2000s.
Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right. The CBR600 F3 is the last CBR600 to use a steel frame. In 1999, Honda switched to an aluminum frame. I like the red. Do you like the red?
It's classy.
Moving over here to the instrument panel, this has a white tachometer, black speedometer, which I don't prefer. Some people do. To me, it looks like it was replaced with one that doesn't match the others. Doesn't have a fuel gauge, so you need to use the trip meter to figure out how long you have until you need to fill up. I've read these can go about 150 miles before you need to put gas in it. They have the old-fashioned petcock fuel valve. They did away with this when they went to fuel injection. A fairing belongs right here that tells you which way is off and on and reserve. But I read an easy way to remember which is reserve points up, because you're praying to high heaven that you won't run out of gas. On is down and off is sidewards. In the next video, I'll take this on a test ride, my first ride on a CBR600, and I welcome any comments or questions you all have about this machine before I take that ride. I plan to film that hopefully the next sunny day, maybe give it a couple days so you have a chance to respond. But while I take that ride, I can respond to your questions and comments. Do you have any questions or comments, camera girl?
No, I don't think so.
I realize now I have been talking just about this entire time.
That's okay. Just found out we were making this video about 15 minutes ago.
And we're already done. If you're interested in watching our previous video, I'll put a link to that up on the screen. And if you'd like to see the next installment of our 3-part showcase about the CBR600, I'll put that up on the screen too. I didn't mention this is a 600cc engine. That's why they call it a CBR600 F3. Thanks for watching.